The desert was not meant for the faint-hearted. Scorching winds, venomous life forms, and the ever-looming silence of a forgotten planet made survival a daily defiance of death. But for Commander Elara Voss, the harshness was a gift. Out here, on the outer rim of the Eridani system, she had no chains, no orders, no past. She built her outpost with her own hands, a low, domed complex carved from reinforced composites, blending with the sands like a forgotten relic. Solar panels lined the roofs, her water condensed from the atmosphere, and the shield perimeter pulsed gently with a soft hum, keeping the worst of the desert's predators at bay. Elara didn't come here to be found. She came here to disappear. It had been 3 years since she defected from the Galactic Command. One mission too many, one order too far. She still remembered the last words her captain screamed at her through the comms before she turned off the feed and left the fleet for good. "You're throwing away everything."
No.
She was reclaiming it. Now her days were spent scavenging old shipwrecks in the dunes, fixing bots, and logging celestial data. She wore a scarf against the sandstorms, leather belts packed with tools, and always carried her plasma revolver. The hat? That was a luxury, kept the sun off, and reminded her of Earth, even if she'd never seen it with her own eyes. The sun was sinking low when she first saw it. A shape on the horizon.
Small.
Steady. Moving fast. She stepped onto the outpost porch, hand resting on her sidearm, boots planted firm in the sand. The twin moons were just beginning to rise, casting long violet shadows across the desert. The figure grew closer. Not a sand beast. Not one of the skimmers used by scavengers. It was a walker, a humanoid exosuit, and someone was inside it. Elara narrowed her eyes behind the polarized lenses of her goggles. No insignia. No power crest. Definitely not Galactic Command. And definitely not local. She raised her weapon just as the walker halted 20 paces out. "Identify yourself," she called, her voice flat but sharp. The walker's panels hissed open, revealing a woman. Young, gaunt, her face pale and sunburned, lips cracked. She collapsed. Elara rushed forward, cursing herself for hesitating. She scanned for traps. Nothing. The woman was unconscious but alive. A biometric tattoo blinked weakly on her neck, civilian class. Her suit was patched, battered, not military issue. Back in the outpost, Elara pumped hydration into her, administered a stim, and waited. The woman's eyes fluttered open an hour later, filled with fear and something else. Recognition. "You're Elara Voss," she whispered hoarsely. The ghost of Mirren Fields. Elara's stomach twisted. She hadn't heard that name in years. Not since. "Who sent you?" she demanded. The woman swallowed, sat up with effort. "I'm not here to capture you. I'm here because of what's coming." Her name was Kale. She had once been a data technician on a survey vessel orbiting Nibarian 4. But something had chased them from orbit. The crew fled, crashing wherever they could. Kale landed here, by pure luck or cruel fate. But it wasn't just survival that drove her to Elara's outpost. "They're coming," she said, voice tight with panic. "Not command. Not pirates. Something else. They're not human." She showed Elara the footage. It was grainy, static-filled, taken from a damaged drone. The shapes were hard to make out, towering, shifting, serpentine things. They moved through electromagnetic interference, like it was air. They melted hulls, cracked shielding with bursts of sound. "Whatever they are," Kale said, "they're headed this way. And your outpost is directly in their path." Elara didn't believe in fate, but she believed in war. And her instincts screamed the same thing her gut did. Kale was telling the truth. They had less than 24 hours before the things, whatever they were, arrived. She could have fled, loaded her skimmer, and disappeared into the canyonlands. But she didn't. Instead, she opened her weapons cache, pulled out her old command-grade railgun, and tossed Kale a pulse carbine. "If they're coming," she said, strapping on her combat gear, "then let them find something waiting." They reinforced the perimeter, tuned the shield generators, rigged the dune approaches with sonic mines and EMP nets. Elara's heart thudded with a rhythm she hadn't felt in years. Not since the last time she stood against overwhelming odds. Not since she lost her squad. Kale, despite her frailness, was a quick learner. Sharp with electronics, calm under pressure. Elara found herself trusting her, and that scared her more than the incoming threat. At sunset, the sky changed. Not the usual dimming of light. This was unnatural. A shimmering ripple tore across the horizon, like heat waves in reverse. And then they appeared. Dark, translucent forms floating just above the ground. Shifting limbs. Glowing cores. No mouths. No eyes. Just a terrible presence. The mines went off. A flash of light. One creature screamed, a sound like dying radio signals, and dropped. But the others kept coming. Elara and Kale fired from the ramparts. Bolts of energy sliced through the air. One of the creatures exploded into dust when Elara's railgun struck its core. Another surged forward, shattering part of the dome's shield. "They're targeting the energy lines," Kale shouted. "Then we cut the lines," Elara barked, slamming her fist on the emergency override. The outpost systems shut down, shields, lights, everything. They dropped into darkness. And the things hesitated. Elara and Kale slipped into the dunes, blending into the shadows. Without power to feed on, the creatures became erratic, drifting, searching. But they had made one mistake. They underestimated Elara on her own ground. One by one, she picked them off. Silent, precise, using the terrain she had studied for years. Kale jammed their signals, rewrote their resonance frequencies, drove two of them mad with counterharmonic pulses. By dawn, the desert was silent again. And the things were gone. Elara sat on the porch of her outpost, watching the sunrise. Kale stood beside her, arms folded. "You didn't run," she said quietly. Elara didn't look at her. Didn't have to. There was a long pause. Then Kale sat beside her, close enough to share the warmth. "So," she asked, "what now?" Elara smiled faintly, the first in a long time. "Now we rebuild. Together."